Chemical weapons. Chemical weapons are weapons using the toxic properties of chemical substances rather than their explosive properties to produce physical or physiological effects on an enemy. Origins mostly in World War I. There were 1.3 million casualties due to chemical warfare. Gas was used by both sides to alter the outcome of battles. Initially, Germans simply opened canisters of chlorine and let drift with the winds to French lines. Then they developed chemical fill to standard munitions for delivery. In 1917, Germans employed mustard shells for the first time. Chemical weapons used by Italy and Ethiopia in 1935 and Japan and Manchuria and China in the late 1930s. They were used in the Iran-Iraq conflict of 1982 to 87. The Geneva Convention of 1925 prohibited the use of chemical weapons in warfare. U.S. did not ratify until 1975. Categories of chemicals in chemical warfare include blood agents. These prevent the transfer of oxygen to tissues, for example, hydrogen cyanide. Choking agent irritates eyes and respiratory tract, for example, phosgene. Blister agents or vesicants. These are low lethality but inflict painful burns, blisters, for example, requiring medical attention. An example is mustard gas. Nerve gases, they block enzymes necessary for functioning of central nervous system, sarin. And riot control agents, these are strong irritants of mucous membranes, for example, tear gas. Highlights of chemical weapons. Chemical weapons are relatively inexpensive to produce. Chemical weapons can affect opposing forces without damaging infrastructure. The chemical weapons can be psychologically devastating, and blister agents create casualties requiring attention and inhibiting force efficiency. In the next slides, I'll give examples of specific chemical agents. The first is a blister agent known as mustard gas, a yellow-brown liquid. It's oily, smells like mustard, destroys interior tissues, a toxic shock within 24 hours of massive exposure. The Germans shelled the British in 1917 in Belgium with this. The next chemical is also a blister agent known as lewisite. Its pure form is colorless, oily, odorless. War gas form is amber in color and a geranium-like odor. It's systemic poison causing pulmonary edema, diarrhea, low blood pressure, fatal in 10 minutes if inhaled. The Germans used against the Allied troops in 1915 in Belgium. The next example is the choking agent chlorine, a greenish yellow gas. It's amber, odor suffocating, pungent, burns nose and mouth, coughing fits, strips of mucus lining, causes respiratory and pulmonary dysfunction. The Germans used this against the Allies in World War I. The last example of this category is another choking agent called phosgene. It's a colorless gas, liquid dispersed in liquid-filled shell that explodes. Causes shortness of breath, pulmonary damage, death results from respiratory failure. Mortality rates very high. Germans used it in World War I against the Allies. Phosgene caused much less coughing than chlorine, with the result that more of it was inhaled. It was consequently adopted by both German and Allied armies. Phosgene often had a delayed effect. Apparently, healthy soldiers were taken down with phosgene gas poisoning up to 48 hours after inhalation. An example blood agent includes hydrogen cyanide, which is liquid at room temperature but evaporates quickly. The poisons that block oxygen use or uptake from blood, causing asphyxiation, is used by the Germans in World War II in extermination camps. Another blood agent is cyanogen, chloride. It's a bodily tissue, decays rapidly. It's first heart, then brain, causes seizures, respiratory failure, cardiac arrest. 15 seconds after inhalation, deep breathing followed by convulsions and death in 6 to 8 minutes. The French used this in World War I. The U.S. maintained small stocks during World War II. Iraq may have used it against the Kurds in 1980. An example of a nerve agent is sarin, a highly toxic nerve gas. It's non-persistent, death in 1 to 2 minutes through the skin. It's 15 minutes through inhalation, enters through the eyes and skin, runny nose, nausea, twitching, and headache. Released by a Japanese cult in Tokyo in subway in 1995. Caused 13 deaths and 5,500 required medical attention. Although gas claimed a notable number of casualties in World War I during its early use, Once the crucial element of surprise had been lost, the overall number of casualties quickly diminished. In large part, this was because of the increasing effectiveness of the methods used to protect against gas poison. Typically, nations have employed chemical weapons against unprotected targets, for example, Saddam Hussein in Iraq, and not against an equally well-armed nation. Chemical weapons are therefore arguably an example of mutual deterrence, although there have been charges of chemical weapon use in virtually every conflict in recent decades. Most have not been substantiated by clinical or physical evidence.